keep it simple. Just want to talk about the ego a little bit. When you find yourself in an argument and you're going, I, count how many times you say I. If you keep going, I, in an argument and there's enemies, then you know you're probably right there in the ego, because it has to have enemies to find its identity and to be superior to. That is to project that my idea is better than yours, and I know who I am. I know who I am in the sense of I'm better than you, and we're at war and you're my enemy. Let's put it like that. But if you want to do a healthy thing to know you're in the mind of the spirit or your spiritual mind, you would go in aspirations of affirming what you are. You would be aspiring to say, I am kind, I am wonderfully made, I am indestructible, I am eternal, I appreciate, I have gratitude, I operate in loving kindness continuously, I am peaceful, I have joy continuously. Those kinds of I's are bam. But when you find yourself gravitating to the thoughts, an ego has to attach to a thought that is I over you, superior. I go to war, wipe out your whole nation, your people, whatever, because that as you I in the argument, it's exalting yourself and distancing yourself from the true self that's over here, the spirit being, the one that's kind, the one that is forgiving, the one that's patient, the one that's peace, the one that's long-suffering, the one that has joy, the one that has kindness, and the one that is gentleness, the one that has all these attributes attached to him, because this new class of man, not the ego one, the delusion, the false self, the one that's not even real, all the projections with all of the other projections from the roles that we play, because in the end, we're not a role or a function which is attached to a title. We are over here to enjoy life abundantly, getting on the most serious side, being in alignment with who God made as a spirit being, the being part. And I'm not separating human from being, but the two can, you drag your humanity or you drag your weaknesses, whatever is there to hinder you, you conform all parts of you, and wholeness would beam and radiate through your entire being, even through the physical man. And so the mind, will, and emotions, the soul, and the spirit, if it's in a total alignment with thought, with one, with I am, the Elohim, if you are in thought. For Christians, it would be the mind of Christ, God in man, thoughts, and I always do what I see the Father do, the Creator. And so for all of us, if we just knew the separation, this is the part that is not appropriate. It is, you can say, fallen. It is short of the mark. It will never be. The ego attached to, if you think you are your car, your job, your trade, your function, you might be a parent, a father, a husband, whatever it is, you are even more than all of those functions. You are a wonderfully created human, but being that God has fearfully and wonderfully made, because you're made in the image of the Creator. Thus we co-create. If you can get in alignment with the thoughts and purposes and plans in your life and the pre-sovereign things that were destined for you, and we just line up and receive those things. And as we do that, even our functions and the energy and anointing, endowments and powers and strengths and mights and wisdoms to do what our function, whether it be a trade or whatever the function flow is, a preacher, a politician, or a doctor, or a janitor, it doesn't matter what the function is. We can separate that function, whether it be a father, a mother, a grandmother, a role of any kind that you must play, and you're not really being your true self, you're doing your job. But the true self is, if you could do that with full of joy, then you can enjoy, along with the function, what you're doing, your true self. That is to say, now I have so much joy in what I'm doing, I'm in my total flow. And that is tremendous, beautiful vibration that you give out from that when you're in your true self with joy and you're doing what you love to do. Man, it's nothing like it. And you're accomplishing and going forward and discovering not just your gifts, talents, and abilities, but you are discovering having peace and being present in the now and understanding and appreciation with praise and gratitude all things that pertain to this life and what is godliness. And that means in the image of God. That means on the side where you're kind, peaceful, joy, loving, forgiveness, patience. You just thrive in faith and hope and virtue. You just that's when you're satisfied, when you're happy, when you're being the true person that God created in the purpose of functioning, but in the purpose of just having your now and enjoying your now, whatever situation, out of any contrast, you with clarity understand, whoa, boy, but just to be observing things from a perspective of I'm an eternal creature that cannot perish. Only the body can cease temporarily, but you are indestructible. You are a class of breed of creation that there is none like, and we all have our uniquenesses and expressions through the personality types, and we only can be aware of what's told to us might happen, but we don't have to even be touched by any of it when we are in the secret place of being who we are, as in Christians' cases, as Jesus walked, as he said, I always do what I see the Father do. He was on an adventure. And to have those kind of adventures, you are in a place where really it doesn't matter what the contrast is. Out of it comes more clarity of what you know you want to be and how you want to adventure in the spirit of your core, in the core of your being, as that spirit man is led by the providence of God and showing you and this and that, and you're experiencing all of this, but yet you're enjoying every moment of the adventure, even with goals. That's living the abundant life. And by the time the goal manifests in its entirety of vision, you don't already enjoy the trip. You knew that was going to happen. On to the next one. True faith knows. So enjoy your ventures out there. Be happy. But more importantly, have the mind that was in Christ Jesus. That is, he didn't think it robbery to not be equal with God, but knew that if source, God's power is the life-giving force, the Zoe life, then we have the opportunity to participate in that on a daily basis as the daily bread is laid out before you on what your thoughts should be in alignment with and what's giving you some happy and joy and pure, just, lovely, good report, things that would bring your spirit up. And out of even negatives will come clarity on how you're supposed to shine versus being on a low disc vibe on stylification, egoic attachments, your ego being attached to I'm this, I'm that, my car and all I have, and I'm in competition with everybody and they are all my enemies. When they all really are human beings. Their roles, we all different. So that's the abundant life. That's the joy, the peace, the knowing who you are, and then seeing others and saying it don't matter how they was acting in. They wasn't being who they are. They was just in the ego. Didn't you hear how many I, and it was on a combative tone? But that's okay. People do that in the reptilian side of their brain. They shut down. But the key is to live in the ether in the midbrain and shut down on the ego and its thoughts that has to be attached to fear, power, the opposite of love, the opposite of kindness, the opposite of temperance, the opposite of long-suffering, the opposite of patience, the opposite of peace, the opposite of joy, the opposite of virtue. It's just off the chain. You want to see a big ego? Just go somewhere where I'm from, South Central Los Angeles, raised there from 71 to 2000. Big ego, jump up. It take a big ego to jump up, don't know you and blow your brains out. Wouldn't you think? I'm a life taker. I got to be superior. No different than Hitler. He did the same thing. So we don't want an ego trip because that's the fallen nature. That's why Christ came, died, rose from the dead, and said you don't have to think like that. Don't that make sense? So you can have victory now in your mind. So a man thinketh, so is he, and so as he think, that becomes a thing. So the bottom line, if love is the base, and that is the trajectory of where we're supposed to walk, love you as I loved you. Jesus, that was a pretty good teaching to me. As I loved you, love one another. As the Father has loved you, so the Father loves you. So love the Father as I loved you. It's all going around, right? And you just love people from the trajectory of how God sees them. And in the real, in the spirit of their core, not the caught up in the bondage of the ego, of divisions and envy and strife and all of that. That's just ego. That's the fallen man. Thank God Jesus rose so we can have the mind of Christ and be able to combat them thoughts. And that's just from my belief. However you get out of those imaginations that take you away from your true being, you get out of them. For me, I cast down and I look at the teachings of Christ and I look at the virtues of love and I look at the characteristics of love and I say that is who I'm so created to be and flow and have my being in, and appreciate the now and love right now and appreciate everything, because wisdom flows and it's standing over us every morning saying, hey, come kick it with me. It's freely. You don't have to pay a dime. You just get in the flow, get in the spirit, and you just flow with thoughts that are spiritual laws, spiritual principles, and those are the ones we conduct ourselves and have our being and move in. And that's the life-giving force, which is all connected to the characteristics of love. What's wrong with that? What would the world be like if we had that mindset before we got out that bed? That I appreciate that I'm breathing, I'm living, I can brush my teeth, I can see if you can't see, I can walk, and if you can't walk, out of one that can't walk, you gotta be grateful, because that could be you. There goes the grace of God, but they are still teaching and learning, and it has nothing to do with a physical body. It has to do with them having their being. Some of the most happiest people is people that have handicaps, because they found themselves, their true self. They found who God created. And they enjoyed it, and they milk it, and they live, and they thrive. No hang-ups on the appearances. No hang-ups on things attached and seen. None. God bless you. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. As he walks,